Apologies for the audio blip there for the start of this stream, everyone. Something has happened on our software since the last time we broadcast, so yeah, all the preview stuff that I usually go through wasn't picked up. Not entirely sure why. Yeah, definitely going to be yelling at the software later on, but we'll try and pick up where we left off. Yeah, so welcome everyone to the fourth round of the championship here at Slovakiaring. A nation formerly known as Czechoslovakia. Until 1993, Slovakia has the world's highest number of castles and chateaux, but the track itself here at Slovakiaring, 14 turns, 7 to the right and 7 to the left. And over the years, it has hosted 8 editions of the World Touring Car Championship since 2012. This year, should we say, was the only season it hasn't hosted in the World Touring Car Championship. But over those 8 editions of the championship, 9 different manufacturers have won, 15 different drivers. So it's certainly one of those tracks of plenty of diversity and mix-up, should we say. We'll take a look at the cars here. We've got, well, there's 4 available to the drivers, but we're going to see 3 today, as the Volvo is not opted to be driven by any of the drivers in the grid today. So we'll see the Chevrolet Cruze, the Honda Civic, Lada Vesta on display today from the 2015, 2016 and 2017 categories of World Touring Car Championship. The itinerary for tonight, we have qualifying coming up in a minute, just 2 minutes time, and that'll set the grid for race 1. And that race 1 will be a 15-minute sprint race. Following that 15-minute sprint race will be another 15-minute sprint race, race 2, where the grid will be based on the results of race 1, but the top 10 will be reversed. There will be a quick break in between races 2 and 3, but when we come back for race 3, it will be a 25-minute feature race, where the grid will be based on the results of race 2, but the top 18 reversed. And this is our season. We started off 4 weeks ago at Monza. And then we ventured to Paul Ricard for the second round of the season in France, and last season was Spa-Francorchamps. Paul Ricard being one of the most exciting rounds we've ever seen, and Spa-Francorchamps being one of the most dramatic rounds we've seen in the championship so far. So plenty to look out for this season, that's for certain. Today we're here at Slovakiaring. Next week we'll be off to the Hungaroring. And then the following week we'll be in Austria for the Salzburg Ring. Moscow will follow in round 7 after a week's break between round 6 and 7. Sonoma will take place for round 8. Twin Ring Motegi for round 9. Round 10 will be Shanghai. Round 11 will be Chang in Thailand. And the Nordschleife will be our final round, the Green Hell. You can still get involved in this championship if you wish to. I know it says £5 season entry there, but from after tonight onwards, it'll be £4 entry for the rest of the season. Or you can pay 50p per race if you are a part-time racer. There are prizes on offer in this series, kindly donated by Apex Tracks, model sculptures of your favourite racing circuits from around the world, and the person who finished first in this championship outright will win a model sculpture of the Nordschleife to hang up in their bedrooms, offices, rig rooms, whatever you want to call it. And of course we also have plaques on offer for the top 3 drivers in both the Pro and Am category, provided by Uncle Luke's Sign and Sticker Shop. Just like that, we are underway with qualifying. With 13 drivers heading out on track right now at the start of this session. And Slovakia, quite a long track. A 2-minute plus lap yet again, just like what we had at Spa-Francorchamps. And Monza for round 1 was just shy of that. Being a sub 2-minute lap, but in the 1-minute 50s. So this season another long lap. And actually quite a lot of the tracks this season are relatively long laps, with the exclusion of maybe Salzburg Ring and Chang. It definitely includes the Nordschleife at the end of the season, which is the full 24 hours layout. So that's the 99% of the Nürburgring GP circuit, about 98%, 99% of the Nordschleife. And that'll be an exciting round taking place on the 9th of December. So a little bit more housekeeping while we wait for the drivers to take to their first laps here at Slovakiaring. Huge thank you to our sponsors for helping us put on our series, including Apex Tracks, and providing prizes. We also have a lot of affiliates and partners, all of which are mentioned in the description of this video. To name a few that are of NXTGEN Racing, PowerMax Racing, Fast R and Joyce Design, and of Crest Autosport. There are many, including Track Racer, 603 Autosport, lovely stickers, Digital Motorsports, Esports Sim, and the GP Box. So as we get to the end of the outlap here, we are going to take an onboard lap of our championship leader, and we will of course go through the championship standings and all the statistics very, very shortly. Probably do it during the warm-up, but we have qualifying to focus on, and we are going to do a lap on board with our championship leader, Geoff Purkiss. This is the dash cam on board with Geoff Purkiss. And flat out down the main straight into turn 1 we go, down to 3rd gear, keeping it as close as they can to the inside, not going out too wide there. Another long stretch here as we go over the hill, back down into the flat out right-hander at turn 2. Actually not quite flat out, as Geoff Purkiss has just alluded us to. Up another crest, and they will be downhill braking into turn 3. Very slow corner, one of the slowest corners on the circuit, and the car in front going a little bit wide there at turn 3, but a nice early apex and then another late apex through turn 3. Left-hander here of turn 4. Then long right-hander here for turn 5, which will take us into turn 6. Into 4th gear, down to 3rd gear, keeping it as nice and tight to the inside as possible. The trick to Slovakia is not to run off wide, not to get the car sideways either. It's a very tricky track to drive. I've lost track of the corners now and lost count of the corners. And we'll continue through the lap. We went through the hairpin there, one of the slowest corners on the track, along with turn 3. Left-hander here, you can't quite take it flat out. You always want to take it flat out when you're driving these cars. It's never quite that possible. Into the slowest corner on the circuit. Left-hander at turn 10 there, I think. Right-hander almost flat out in 3rd gear, and left again as we come on to another main straight here, which is adjacent to the main straight, the pit straight. Plenty of slipstream from the driver ahead of Geoff Purkiss here. That is Heike Navlov, long right-hander here off turn 13, and Geoff Purkiss held up a little bit here. Needs to take a good exit here, ready to start the next lap. William Berera has put himself on the board. Where will Geoff Purkiss place himself? He had a lot of slipstream throughout that lap, but ultimately, towards the end of the lap, it let him down a little bit. He's a long way down from William Berera. And to mention William Berera, he had an awful round, it's got to be said, at Spa-Francorchamps. Not entirely his fault. There were a few incidents here and there that you could argue weren't his fault, and he did crash out from the lead in race 3, so that's arguably his fault, but just one of those races he's going to have to put behind him. But he'll definitely come into tonight, that's for sure, with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, ready to score some big points tonight, I'm sure. We'll see how he gets on. He's top of the standings at the moment. But while we're waiting for a few more laps to go on the board, we'll quickly go through the championship standings as they are coming into tonight's round. They were the results from last week. Geoff Purkiss leads the championship on 276 points. He leads Lee Horne by 8 points in 2nd place. Neil Crave in 3rd place, followed by Ian Deeney. Ian Deeney is not racing tonight, sadly. Heike Navlov is racing, 5th place for him, followed by was championship leader before round 3, William Berera, down to 6th. But there are drop rounds to consider, which we'll go through shortly. David Kernahan is in 7th position, followed by Alex Ward, Ollie Hansen in 9th, and Roy Plummer in 10th. The important thing to note with these championship standings is they also decide the ballast that these drivers carry into each round. For qualifying race 1 and race 2 anyway, Geoff Purkiss will carry the maximum amount of ballast of 40 kilograms, and it will run down across the top 10 in increments of 4. So it runs all the way down to Roy Plummer in 10th, who carries 4 kilos. This will reset for the final race of the night, race 3, where the ballast of race 3 will be based on the qualifying results that are happening here right now and for the next 8.5 minutes. We also now have an AM Championship to keep our eyes on, and it is headed by Ollie Janssen, and he's only 1 point ahead of Roy Plummer, who is 10 points ahead of Jürgen Matthew Pedersen. Elliot House in 4th place, followed by Stephen de Gravelia, Anastasios Georgiadis, who was a runner-up in the AM category last season, in 6th place, Andy Withers and Matt Jeffrey 7th and 8th, Mark Aerosmith 9th, and Emil Holmberg in 10th. So back to the qualifying. We had to get a lot of the housekeeping done then, rather impromptu of me, but with our audio issues earlier on in the stream, again, no idea why, we had to run through it again. So it is William Berera at the top of the standings right now, and he is 1/4 of a second ahead, quite a lengthy margin ahead of Matt Zenko. But then again, it is a very, very long lap with a lot of corners, so plenty of opportunity to make up 1/4 of a second. And Matt Zenko picked up his debut win of the series last time out at Spa-Francorchamps in race 3. He took the win with William Berera, his teammate, by the way. They're both teammates of Warrior Motorsport. William Berera crashing out in race 3. Matt Zenko battled with Ian Deeney, went on to take the win. And in 3rd place we have Lee Horne, 2nd in the championship. So he'll have his eyes on Geoff Purkiss down in 6th place, but he'll also have a keen eye on William Berera. Lee Horne was, I'm going to say, victim last week at Spa-Francorchamps, as the Chevrolet did really struggle at that race last time out. But he seems to have found a little bit of a trick up his sleeve, as he's only 4/10 down. 4/10, which is quite easy to make up here at Slovakiaring if you really can hook up a good lap here. And David Kernahan also took his debut win in the series last time out at Spa-Francorchamps. He's 7th in the championship despite missing the first round of the season. He's been very consistent in his results. He's had 2 7th places, 3 4th places, and a win. So consistently in the top 7. And picking up plenty of good results along the way. 5th right now, so that's not a bad showing thus far from Conahan. Geoff Purkiss has put himself into 4th place in qualifying right now. Still some way off the top spot, but him being championship leader and Geoff Purkiss with us being half a Crest Autosport and half a NXTGEN Racing Championship, Geoff Purkiss is one of the most decorated drivers in NXTGEN Racing history. Back in the console days, as they say, on PS4, he was the man to beat on Project Cars. He's come over to PC, and it hasn't quite been, as some say, easy for him. But is this his time? Is this his opportunity to pick up the championship? We'll find out as the weeks go by. Five minutes to go in qualifying here. Heike Navalov approaches the final corner. Personal best in sectors 1 and 2, but those sector times are significantly down on Berera, so it might be an improvement of position, it might be an improvement of time, but it certainly won't be denting the top spot there. Navalov comes across the line, stays 8th place, but gets a little bit closer. Not quite on the pace of the 7 ahead of him. Jonas Limburg has missed a fair few rounds this season. Yes, he has. Yeah, he was unable to attend round 1, unable to attend round 3. But with drop rounds, again, I'll mention about drop rounds in just a moment. But with drop rounds to play, that's not going to make Jonas Limburg miss out too much. He's still in a good opportunity to challenge for the championship, particularly as he's already picked up a win this season at Paul Ricard 2 weeks ago. Now, drop rounds, as we mentioned. The championship has 2 drop rounds, and what are drop rounds? They are each driver's 2 worst scores of the season reverted to 0. So if you miss 2 rounds, they're effectively your worst scores. So your 10 best rounds count towards your final championship tally. So Jonas Limburg, as we mentioned, has missed 2 rounds so far this season. That will not affect him in the championship fight. It does, however, put him quite low in the championship right now, which means it's going to be some catching up to get himself towards the top. And it means he's going to be riding most of the season with fairly low ballast. Quite a tactic from Limburg. We'll have to see if it pays off. At the moment in qualifying, it's not really paying off, but it is only qualifying. 7th in the standings right now. Let's see if he can get any better than that. At the end of sector 1, 3/10 down. So it's just not working for Limburg today. Maybe that Honda is a bit of a struggle around here. It is very, very powerful on the differential, which means it's prone to understeer on the exit of corners. And on a track like this, understeer on the exit of corner is something you don't want. Because you are so reliant on putting your foot on the throttle, powering it around the corner. And if the Honda is going to understeer more doing that, it's going to be struggling in these corners compared to, say, the Ladas and the Chevrolets. Thought I'd mention a little bit of something. We didn't really host a race, but we hosted the broadcast of a race here a fair few months ago. It was hosted here at Slovakiaring, and it was a nations battle race. It was the United Kingdom versus Team Ukraine. There were 12 or 13 drivers from each country taking part in a race against one another. Most points of each team wins, and it was Team GB who came out on top out of the 2. But here was the nation that hosted, relatively in between the 2 nations in terms of a neutral battling ground. But it was some race, and that goes down in Crest Autosport history with it being hosted on this channel. And there are a lot of next-gen drivers taking part in that, including Lee Horne, Jamie Dory and Alex Ward taking part in that race to wave the flag for GB and bring it home. And if you do fancy going back to watch that, just search on our channel Team Great Britain versus Team Ukraine, and you'll find that race. It was thoroughly good fun. National anthems and a host of drivers from 2 nations going hammer and tongs against one another. It was brilliant to watch. But we're in the final stages of qualifying here. William Berera looks to be set, as Mateusz Zenko and David Kernahan, who are 2nd and 3rd, are in the pits. And there's only a minute left on that timer. And I say it every week, and I'll say it again. Once that timer expires, that is it. Qualifying ends. You are not allowed to complete your lap. No matter how close you are to the end of the lap, you won't be allowed to complete it. So that is it for Mateusz Zenko and Kernahan. Quite a lot of other drivers are in the pits as well, including Geoff Purkiss, down there in 5th, championship leader. And Berera has just put himself back in the pits, decides to give up. Oh, and we go to Lee Horne, and just as he enters, I think that's turn 1 actually, he puts it off the track, and that ends his chances of trying to challenge for that top spot. So that top 5, they're not going any further, and we are given the standings rather prematurely. But this is our 14-car grid, but the 13 drivers have sat a lap. 14-car grid for the race of race 1. William Berera on pole position again, with Mateusz Zenko in 2nd, followed by David Kernahan. Lee Horne in 4th place, followed by Geoff Purkiss and Neil Crave in 6th. Jonas Limburg lines up 7th, with Heike Navalov in 8th, Alex Ward 9th and Jamie Dory 10th. Mark Arrowsmith lines up 11th, with 12th being Anastasios Georgiadis. 13th will line up Stephen de Gravelia, and Elliot House, who didn't set a time, will line up 14th. Remember, qualifying results decide the ballast for later on in the night, so William Berera, for the final race of the night, will carry 40 kilos of ballast. So we have a little bit of a warm-up before we get things underway for race 1 of the night. It's a relatively small grid for what we are used to in this championship. I mean, Monza, we had 20 drivers. Paul Ricard, we had 22. Last week we had 17. So It's a relatively small grid this week compared. Quite a lot of drivers not able to make it tonight. So hopefully if they all can make it next week, it'll be a rather decent grid for quite a good track of Hungaroring. But with that, if you do want to get involved in the series, you still can. It is some thoroughly great racing as you're about to watch tonight. And we saw it last week at Spa, it was great racing. And we saw it 2 weeks ago at Paul Ricard. We saw it 3 weeks ago in the opening round at Monza. But it's great racing to get involved in. You still can get involved in the series. Head over to crestautosport.com to sign up. Plenty of spaces available for late entries. And of course, we will continue hosting more and more series once this one is concluded. At the beginning of the year, Next Gen Racing on RaceRoom hosted WTCR Championship. Crest Autosport hosted a combined DTM Championship with the 2020 cars and 2016 cars, and then the two organisations came together to host the Euro TCR Championship last time out, which was won by Ayman Hakim of Malaysia. And this season is the World Touring Car Challenge to see out 2021. Plenty of rounds to watch, to go. So we see William Berera having a practice start there coming out of the pits. Lee Horne and Limburg there getting a little bit of extra practice on the track they feel they need. Either that or they're just trying to kill time. So here we go, we're about to line up on the grid for this first race of the night. This is the World Touring Car Challenge hosted by Crest Autosport and Next Gen Racing, round 3, coming to you here from Slovakiaring. On behalf of Crest Autosport TV and Next Gen Racing TV, welcome along to the live streams, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch or Facebook. Give us a like, follow and or subscribe from wherever you are watching. And enjoy the racing tonight. I know we will. Drivers line up on the grid ready for this race tonight. William Berera on the front row with Czech driver Matej Zenko, probably closest to home right now. From just over the border, we are about to go here at Slovakiaring. Lights are red. And away we go. Good start for most, it seems, and they come across the wide track here at Slovakia, and it's a good start there from William Berera as we plunge down to turn 1, a very fast right-hander, not much braking needing at all, and look at that, William Berera has conceded the lead already, it seems, to Matej Zenko with a brave move up the inside. He comes across the block, coming out of turn 1, and up and over the hill we go. Matej Zenko leads coming out of turn 1, the winner of race 3 last week, leads the way at race 1 here today, 1 week later, and look at that, David Kernahan with a good start from him in 3rd place there, trying to get up alongside William Berera. He's got Lee Horne behind him. He's going to challenge the outside of William Berera, but it's not going to be enough. It's a fairly long corner here, and now he's contested for 3rd place with Lee Horne. Slow down penalty for Neil Crave back in 6th place there. Lee Horne is challenging again on David Kernahan, but it's not able to work. Kernahan is able to cover it off. Geoff Purkiss on the outside of his championship rival. Good start to this race from Geoff Purkiss, and William Berera put it on the grass then. Slows down a lot. It has bunched up a little bit between all these drivers. Geoff Purkiss on the inside of Lee Horne, challenging for 4th place on the hairpin here. Oh, they all bunch up a little bit coming out of the corner. Geoff Purkiss has put himself into 4th place though. Good start to this race from Geoff, up from 7th to 4th. Good start from Jamie Dory, it seems as well. He's up to 7th and already challenge ahead on Neil Crave. He looks to the inside, he can't quite make it, but Limburg holding it round the outside, but it understeers off, put the power down just way too hard too early, and now Alex Ward is going to challenge him for 8th place. 10th is the place to look out for, as that is reverse grid pole, and it's Elliot House at the moment, who's gone from 14th to 10th on the first lap. He is the big mover of the field, week in, week out usually. Conahan right behind Berera here, not able to make a move. It didn't look like he got fairly close, but at the end of lap 1, a brilliant start from Matej Zenko. Takes the lead on the first corner, and he leads at the end of the first lap here. He led at the end of the race last time out at Spa-Francorchamps. So, business shall be resumed for the Czech driver. Into turn one we go. Berera defending rather than attacking at the moment. He is hanging on just ahead of David Kernahan. This is on board with Geoff Purkiss. There's the view ahead of fellow Lada drivers ahead. Conahan, Berera and Zenko. That's the view behind. Lee Horne dropping back a little bit, it seems. It is quite a tricky track to overtake on here at Slovakia, so you've got to time it well. You've got to get out of the corners fairly well, and in these cars it is very difficult to exit from these corners, so you might see a lot of drivers really capitalising on bad exits. And we've seen Alex Ward here lose a lot of time for the drivers ahead, defending from Elliott House. Close here. Battle for second. Lee Horne at the tail end of it. As the four cars bunch up as they go through the hairpin. Still 3/4 of a second ahead is Zenko from Berera. Berera is in the number 2 Gabriele Tarquini livery. Ahead of him is Matteo Zenko in the Katzberg number 10 livery. And in the James Thompson livery is David Kernahan. Through the S's they go. Left-hander, then right-hander, now a quick left-hander to go over the hill towards the final part of the lap. Lee Horne dropped one place from the start of this race. And that is his championship rival ahead. No matter what Lee Horne could do last week, he just could not get by Geoff Purkiss. At the end of lap 2, Matteo Zenko still leads and has dropped a little bit of time from William Berera. I'm going to try and compare their last lap there to one another. William Berera was just over 2.5 tenths quicker than Zenko on that lap. A little bit of a slipstream might be helping him out. A little bit of harrying from the driver behind of David Kernahan might be helping the Italian out. Long right-hander we go. Neil Crave is trying to challenge on Jamie Dory here. Not quite going to happen. But a good run out of the corner here might help things out. But it looks like Limburg has got the best run going into the hairpin here. Not able to make a move just yet. These cars are quite fragile on the brakes. So it's very, very difficult to get hard on the brakes to outbrake your opponent. It is very prone to slip sideways, these cars are, when you stamp on the brakes quite hard. And back here, this Anastasios Georgiadis, a spin coming out of turn 2, it seems, and that looks to be like he's going to carry on, but well down the order in 14th. Kernahan with a big lunge on the inside of William Berera. Berera gives him room. I'm not sure if that was running wide by Berera, but he bashes Kernahan to say, let me back on the track. And Kernahan has to ease off to let Berera back through. But they drop back a little bit from the car ahead of Matteo Zenko. 9 tenths between them now. And it looked to be like a big understeering moment from William Berera. Slipping in wide. That allowed Kernahan to pounce. And the 4 of them battling for second place still fairly close together. With Jamie Dory lurking in the wings here. To turn 13 we go. Approaching the end of lap 3. This is on board with David Kernahan. His one opportunity of the race so far didn't quite work. This is a rear view from Geoff Purkiss. Look how close Lee Horne is. And a good slipstream down this straight here is what Lee Horne needs. But look, that Chevrolet is just dropping back from the Ladas ahead, all in a slipstream train. But the Chevrolet is super good through the corners. This is where Lee Horne makes up all of his time. And a slowdown penalty for William Berera there. It looked like he went too wide. Coming off of turn 1. He might be able to serve that slowdown under braking for these corners. Still appearing on our screen is that slowdown penalty for Berera. He needs to see it. He needs to serve it. As soon as it disappears, means it's gone. Mark Arrowsmith also with a slowdown penalty. Remains to be seen if Berera has shaken off his. And he had a bad exit from the corner there. Kernahan challenging from the right of his side. And he looks left. He's trying to look for all ways to get by the Italian, who defends going into the next corner here, and they're just dropping back from Matej Zenko. It's a dream start to the race for Zenko, and he's not under immediate threat just yet. Real close together is Geoff Purkiss and Lee Horne. Kernahan was half defending and half attacking then. He's got the championship leader right behind him, and Kernahan missed the first race of the season, and as we mentioned, he's still managed to get himself 7th in the championship. He has scored big points this season. We may have another driver joining this battle for 2nd place, and that is Jamie Dory. Considered the part-timer of this series, but he's raced all but one. Unfortunately, he was called to work last week, so he couldn't race at Spa. But Jamie Dory is another driver who's picked up good results. He's had 3 podium finishes this season. Oh, and William Berera. William Berera's gone off. Oh, no, that's David Kernahan. Sorry, Kernahan has gone off, and I'm not sure what happened, unfortunately. We were looking at Jamie Dory, but Kernahan, challenging for 2nd place, has gone off, and he'll drop to 9th place. Unfortunately, we're not able to get replays on RaceRoom, so not entirely sure what happened there. He might have broke too early and just put it off himself, or it might have been contact between him and Geoff Purkiss, or even Berera. We saw a big lunge there from Geoff Purkiss, and it washed him out wide. He is now under a bit of threat from Lee Horne. The long right-hander here. Can the Chevrolet keep up? Very wide coming out the corner there. They are allowed to run off on there. That is one of the allowances of that curb, is they can run off onto as much of it as they can as soon as they touch the grass. That's it. It sends them into slow down territory, and a big wide moment there for Geoff Purkiss has allowed Lee Horne to pounce, but Lee Horne is not able to challenge on that side of the track, and in fact it makes him a bit open to Jamie Dory here, who's going to undercut and try and get up the inside into the next corner. He can't quite make it. Lee Horne hangs on to 4th place at the moment, but they are going to start dropping back from William Berera if they're not careful, who is 2 seconds down from race leader Matej Zenko, who, if he can keep this pace up, could hang on to this lead. And that is Jamie Dory versus Lee Horne. Lee Horne, who washed out wide going through the hairpin there. That allows Dory through into 4th place. And Lee Horne drops more places to Geoff Purkiss, which means more championship points. There's 4 points between them in terms of this race in their positions right now. So 3rd place scores 36 points, and 5th place scores 32 points. So it's another 4 points dropped potentially for Lee Horne from the 8 he's already down on. Geoff Purkiss won't mind that. He'll take that. He might not be winning the race, but a podium finish here is another podium finish under his belt. He has had 3 top 3 finishes this season already, 1 fastest lap and 1 win. 17 places gained in all the races put together. But with 4.5 minutes to go, we might have 3 laps to go, because this is a lap just over 2 minutes, which means that timer is not going to expire when they complete the 7th lap, which means they'll have to do an 8th. And that's always worth keeping an eye on. It always risks fuel levels, because some drivers tend to overfuel just to be safe, and some drivers tend to be on the limit. But look at this, Jamie Dory real close to Geoff Purkiss. He's able to get up the inside of Geoff Purkiss into the hairpin. A brilliant slipstream from the underpowered Chevrolet. He's able to get alongside and back past Geoff Purkiss, and that is Jamie Dory certainly helping out his NXTGEN Racing teammate Lee Horne there. And now Jamie Dory onto the podium yet again. He's had, as we said, 3 podiums to his name this season, 2 of which came at Paul Ricard 2 weeks ago, and 1 at Monza. He could well be on his way to another one here today. So worth keeping an eye on these two. These are the 2 championship protagonists, Geoff Purkiss and Lee Horne. Gap between them in the championship after this race would be 10 points. But with other drivers around them scoring points, Matej Zenko is 14th in the championship. He's missed around, as has Jamie Dory, so they're not really going to be denting their championship, just the other two drivers' championship just yet. But with drop rounds to consider later on, this is good results for Zenko and Dory. William Berera will take a second place, that's for certain, given how badly Spa-Francorchamps went last time. Let's see what Lee Horne can do. He has quite a lot of ballast on his car, which isn't helping. 36 kilos to Geoff Purkiss' 40 kilos, and that Lada is very high-powered anyway compared to the Chevrolet. But we see the Chevrolet is so good on the brakes and so good in the corners. He eases up to Geoff Purkiss, and particularly in Sector 2. We're in Sector 1 right now. This is Turn 2 coming up right now. 2 minutes to go in this session, which means we definitely will get another lap. And it is 2.1 seconds between Zenko and Berera. Rather maintained gap between them since when we last checked in with them. And in fact, Jamie Dory is not messing around. He is catching William Berera, and he's got definitely a lap and a half to catch and pass him. And at the moment, it's looking pretty good. Let's see what else is going on. David Kernahan is trying for his comeback here. 9th place at the moment, but this does put him quite high up on the grid for the next race. Race 2, which is a reverse 10. And of course, Elliott House will put himself in pole position territory. But David Kernahan is a race winner. We saw that at Spa-Francorchamps last time out. So don't write him off for a potential win. Jamie Dory is getting closer and closer to William Berera and might challenge for a second place here. Heavy on the brakes. Jamie Dory already looking, trying to tease that inside on William Berera. Taking late lines through the corners to try and get the best acceleration he can out the corners. There's good acceleration coming out of turn 11 there as we come over the hill and towards turn 13. Jamie Dory is getting closer and closer to the Gabriele Tarquini liveried Lada ahead of him. He already gets alongside, and this is on the outside of the corner. Can he hang on to the outside? This is brave and very, very gutsy from Jamie Dory. He's still alongside. He is still alongside the Lada as we start the final lap here. Zenko starts his final lap, still in the lead. Jamie Dory looking always to try and get by or alongside William Berera at least. He's late on the brakes. He's able to get it to the outside, but he has to try and undercut here as there was not much grip out there. Lee Horne is going to try and undercut on Geoff Purkiss, who went wide at turn 1. Into 4th place he goes, ahead of his championship rival, and Jamie Dory is now on the inside of William Berera going into turn 2. Berera stays wide and is able to power it through the corner. What can Jamie Dory do? Here? He looks to the inside, but it's being covered off by Berera. Into turn 3 we go. Dory is again late on the brakes, but he's forced to the outside. No progress from Lee Horne and Geoff Purkiss. They stay as they are. Geoff Purkiss has dropped back to 5th place from what was looking like maybe a 3rd place for him a couple of laps ago. Dory looking always to try and get by William Berera. Looks always. Oh, back here. Lee Horne going very wide, but he's able to keep hold of that position. Jamie Dory, what can he do? He's running out of corners. He's running out of time. Berera is defending this very, very well. It's got to be said. And dropping off the pace a lot in this last lap is Matej Zenko. He needs to be a little bit careful. He's got the back marker ahead of him of Anastasios Georgiadis, but he's dropping a lot of pace here. Is he out of fuel? He's losing a lot of time. Back there is William Berera, battling with Jamie Dory. Dory is trying to look all ways, but Berera has covered off the inside. Jamie Dory is going to take it round the outside. He's going to try and make it work around the outside. But we must switch to the winner, as I think Berera has got the edge on his opponent there. But Matej Zenko, it's 2 from 2. The last 2 races have been won by this driver. Another brilliant win for the Czech driver. He takes it, and William Berera just about hangs on in front of Jamie Dory to take 2nd. Dory takes 3rd on another podium finish for himself. Lee Horne taking Geoff Purkiss on turn 1 of the last lap there. And Geoff Purkiss drops points in the championship to his rival. Now 6 points between them. Neil Craig takes 6th place ahead of Jonas Limburg. Alex Ward takes 8th place, with Elliot House gaining a position to 9th. As something happened between him and David Kernahan, it seems. Kernahan drops to 10th, but will therefore take reverse grid pole for race 2 coming up in a few moments' time. Out of the top 10 is Heike Navalov, Stephen Gravelia, Mark Arrowsmith and Anastasios Georgiadis, and there are your classified standings of this race. Jamie Dory with the fastest lap, rather unsurprisingly, but Matej Zenko takes the win after what looked like quite a worrying final lap as he was dropping off the pace. 2nd place though goes to William Berera, back on the podium finally. Jamie Dory in 3rd, followed by Lee Horne. Geoff Purkiss rounding out the top 5. And reverse grid pole, as we mentioned, will go to David Kernahan for finishing 10th position. We are going to go for a quick break now, but when we come back, it will be race 2. Don't go away. Right, welcome back. Right, welcome back everyone. Apologies for the audio tonight. It's... I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll carry on for race 3 here. So to remind you of what happened in race 2 with the fact there was no commentary, so it was a little difficult to follow presumably. Kernahan took the win from Elliott House in 2nd, Jamie Dory in 3rd, William Berera 4th. Zenko took 5th with Purkiss in 6th, Neil Crave 7th, Limburg in 8th, Lee Horne in 9th, Alex Ward in 10th. Ara Smith took 11th, Navaloff in 12th, De Gravelia in 13th, and Georgiadis took 14th. It'd be a full reverse grid for this race. And also ballast will be reset for this race. The top 10 of qualifying will carry ballast for this race, and it will run down in increments of 4. So it will be like so. William Berera will have 40 kilos, Matej Zenko will have 36 kilos, 32 kilos for David Kernahan, 28 kilos for Lee Horne, 24 kilos for Geoff Purkiss, 20 kilos for Neil Crave, Jonas Limburg. With 16, 12 for Heike Navaloff, 8 for Alex Ward, and 4 for Jamie Dory. As mentioned earlier on, if you heard, 25-minute race coming up very, very shortly. And if you want to get involved in the series, this is how. You go to crestautosport.com and you fill in the sign-up form, pay the entry fee, and you can get involved in the racing. Whether you are late entry, it doesn't matter, you can still get involved in the series. More drivers, the better in this series, so please do get involved. Hungaroring is next week, followed by Salzburg Ring for round 6. There'll be a week off between 6 and 7. Moscow will be back for round 7. Round 8 will take place at Sonoma, with round 9 taking place at Twin Room Motegi. Round 10 will be Shanghai, followed by round 11 Chang, and round 12 the Nordschleife. We'll go radio silent until the race starts, while I can try and sort out some of the audio issues here. Right, we're about to go here for race 3. And a reminder of the grid before things get underway. A full reverse grid at the results from race 2. So Anastasios Georgiadis will line up on pole, followed by Steven de Grevelier. Third will start Heike Navalov, with Mark Arrowsmith starting 4th. 5th will start Alex Ward, with Lee Horne starting 6th. 7th will start Jonas Limburg, with 8th starting Neil Crave. Geoff Purkiss will start 9th, with Matej Zenko, the race 1 winner, starting 10th. William Berera starting 11th, with Jamie Dory starting 12th. 13th will be Elliott House, and race 2 winner David Kernahan will line up at the back in 14th. This is just a reminder at the ballast we have coming into this third race. William Berera will be back on 40 kilograms, followed by Matej Zenko on 36 kilos, David Conahan in 32 kilos, and it continues running down in increments of 4, down to Jamie Dory, who carries 4 kilos. Been an interesting night, minus the technical difficulties here. But as the sun sets on Slovakiaring, I'm sure we'll have a good race here. 25-minute feature race coming up now for the World Touring Car Challenge, hosted by Crest Autosport and NXTGEN Racing. It's been a shoddy show tonight, but beyond my control. Please do give us a like, follow and subscribe, and hopefully brings us good luck for next week's race, which will be the Hungaroring. Do tune into the channel on Wednesday night as well to catch the IndyCar series, which last night hosted quite an exciting finish, so do go back and watch that. Twingring Motegi last night's race, very exciting end. But we're lining up on the grid, ready to go for tonight's race, the third race. I think Matej Zenko failed to make the grid. He's classified as 14th there, but the rest of the grid will start this race. Georgiadis leads off from the start for this 25-minute race. And it's not a bad start from him. As we come down towards turn 1, de Grevelier drops back a little bit and he's under some threat from Alex Ward. Into turn 1 we go. Georgiadis leads the way through. Arrowsmith being squeezed out a little bit by Alex Ward and Heike Navalov, but he's going to try the inside of Steven de Grevelier here. A drive-through penalty for Matej Zenko speeding in the pit lane, which is not what you want to do when you start from the pits. Oh, and off goes Alex Ward. No, it's not Alex Ward. I think that's Lee Horne. Someone went off, not sure. Georgiadis still leads going into turn 3. In the mid-pack here, getting quite close. Getting quite close as they did in race 1 and 2. And running wide there was William Berera coming back on the track. Big contact between him, Elliott House and David Kernahan, but William Berera drops back a bit, not what he wanted, considering a lot of his championship rivals are now up, away and ahead. Lee Horne with one of the best starts, he's up to 4th place. He's got a fair few drivers ahead of him. De Grevelier ramming into the back of Mark Arrowsmith. Mark won't like that, he usually doesn't like getting hit from the back. But in 3rd place for him, that bunched up the field a bit, and Neil Crave nips in front of Lee Horne. A lot of moves going on here into the hairpin here. Most notably, Geoff Purkiss on the inside of Jonas Limburg. Big undercut there from Lee Horne, trying to get by Steven de Grevelier, both in the Chevrolet. So fairly even on pace, but Steven de Grevelier with a lot less weight on his car, and trying to get up the inside there is Neil Crave. Didn't bother. Decided not to go for that move. Mark Arrowsmith goes ahead as Anastasios Georgiadis is off the track. Puts it off on the final corner there, and that is a one-way ticket back to the back of the grid. Arrowsmith leads at the end of lap 1. He leads from de Grevelier and Lee Horne with a big opportunity to take a win here. A win he hasn't had since Paul Ricard. Paul Ricard race 1, that is. And he's on the inside of de Grevelier, who holds up a few of the other drivers, including Crave and Dory here. Dory has been the star of the show so far tonight, with two third place finishes, so he'll certainly want to get himself the top spot in this race. Disqualified for speeding in the pit lane again, Matusenko. His race is over, pretty much. And, well, if you don't hit that pit limiter, you're going to get disqualified. There is a speed limit in RaceRoom, and most sims do, so you know, it's quite important to set those buttons on your steering wheel. And Berera getting bashed around by a lot of drivers, being very impatient around him. He's trying to get out of the way, and people just barging their way through. He's back down to 12th place now. Battling with Anastasios Georgiadis yet again. Contact between the two of them. Lee Horne getting bunched up by Neil Crave here. Crave got himself back ahead of Lee Horne. Dory, big opportunity to get himself back into third place, the spot he loves finishing tonight, but he'll definitely want to finish higher than that. Big move here in the mid-pack. That's Elliot House with a move on Jonas Limburg. Very, very impressive move indeed, but the cutback comes from Limburg, but Elliot House is able to hang on to it. Good move from Elliot House. To the final corner. Big lunge from Lee Horne on Neil Crave, not able to get it on the inside. Mark Arrowsmith will be happy with this, just leading away at the front here. Definitely need to get his elbows out if these other drivers catch up. See Geoff Purkiss in the white, blue and red Russia coloured Lada. Breaking the slipstream to try and carry a little less speed down into the first corner, probably more comfortable with his normal braking spot. That'll be why he's doing that. He calms down a little bit here, no imminent moves from anyone, but they do catch up a little bit with front to Mark Arrowsmith in the last half a lap or so. This is the part where Mark will have to get his elbows out and start getting rough and tough with the drivers who are coming up behind him. Lee Horne with a big cut at the corner there. That's very rare for Lee Horne. But trying to get every little advantage he can. Jamie Dory washing off a bit wide there. It broke a little bit too late, or the cars in front of him broke too early, one or the other. Bunches up a little bit in the hairpin, usually does on that corner. Very slow corner from what is quite usually a very, very fast track. There's very few corners on this circuit that are quite slow like that hairpin we just saw. Lee Horne trying the inside. Oh, and look at that, Neil Crave. That's one way of making a move happen, and Mark Arrowsmith getting pushed about a little bit here, has to try and get back in front, and he gets back into second place. Jamie Dory now takes the lead. I'm not entirely sure what happened. It was a little bit difficult to follow, but Neil Crave, a big lunge on the middle, contact with Lee Horne, and it didn't work out for either of them. They dropped a few places. Jamie Dory takes the lead, and this is exactly what he wanted. This is exactly what Jamie Dory has really been targeting all night. He's had the pace to do it. And this, by the looks of it, could be a walkaway now for Jamie Dory. See what the others do. Geoff Purkiss trying Mark Arrowsmith now. And he has got Lee Horne. He knows he's his championship rival, so he's got to keep an eye on him as well. Into turn one we go. Purkiss still defends. And there's a lot of cars queuing up behind this pack here. This runs all the way back to Alex Ward in 11th. Lee Horne has got himself ahead of Geoff Purkiss. Back behind second place, Mark Arrowsmith, who didn't have a very good run out of the corner there. That's going to allow Lee Horne to attack. Simple rules of, well, not rules, but guidelines to motorsport. Use all the road that you can. And it didn't look like the optimal racing line for Mark Arrowsmith coming out of turn 2. Move from Lee Horne there. The door closed quite quickly. He backed out of it just in time. Not too much contact between the two. It's the hairpin. Quite a few lunges here, not all of them working. And back here, Navlov has washed off wide. I'm not sure if there was contact from the ladder of Kernahan behind him. This now might be a sitting duck to fellow Honda driver Jonas Limburg. Mark Arrowsmith might be a sitting duck now to Lee Horne. Horne has the better line going into the hairpin, gives a bit of room, but will have the inside for the next corner. And he does. He makes it into second place, does Lee Horne. Good for his championship, as he needs to finish ahead of Geoff Purkiss. And he needs to be conscious of William Berera as well, as he scored big points tonight as well. Mark Arrowsmith fighting back on Lee Horne, but does not have the good line. He has the outside. That's definitely not going to work unless he could try and get a good undercut here, which he might have done. That Honda is very, very good coming out of the corners if you can keep the car in a straight line. Big run here down the main straight. Lee Horne is going to defend the inside, but we've seen that Chevrolet get through these corners very, very well. Geoff Purkiss around the outside of Mark Arrowsmith. Now trying the outside of Lee Horne here. This could be a very, very good move from Geoff Purkiss. If he can finish this off by the looks of it, he could. He's got himself around the outside of Mark Arrowsmith. He might be able to complete around the outside of Lee Horne here. He's ahead at the moment, but he hasn't completed the move. Now he has. Brilliant move from Geoff Purkiss. Probably one of the best moves of the night. That's got to be said. Lee Horne trying to fight back. Can't quite make it. Mark Arrowsmith is going to try the middle here. The door closes between him and William Berera. That's one of those where the person who keeps their foot in makes it through, and by the looks of it, it's Berera at the moment. Oh, and he tries turning across on Lee Horne there. Lee Horne's nose is still there, still more contact between the two, and he spins in the middle of the field. That's going to collect him up. Big contact between him and Lee Horne. That's certainly one that the steward's going to look at after. Berera drops down the order. Oh, and Alex Ward getting out of shape there. More contact between him and William Berera. Berera just pushes him off. Just tags him up the rear and just forces him off wide. Not sure what's going on with these drivers in this race, but this isn't particularly great racing, I'll be honest. Mark Arrowsmith, lucky for him, ends up back in third. He'd be happy with that. But it allows Geoff Purkiss away. He can try and set his sights on Jamie Dory. Arrowsmith has to defend from Lee Horne again. Final corner, 10 minutes expired, 15 or just shy of 15 to go. Jamie Dory leads the way, 2.7 seconds is the gap. We'll have to see if the gap comes down at the end of the next lap. He tries the undercut on Mark Arrowsmith, he's got alongside, and that could be a very, very well preserved move. Very proactive driving from Lee Horne there. Elliott House, 5th place here. This is good racing from him. He's come up from 13th on the grid. Really impressive from Elliott House. He's been one of the big movers this season, but not being one of the cleanest. He did get a penalty after Paul Ricard, but he has put on quite the show this season, that's got to be said. Lee Horne puts himself into 3rd place, which means he's set his sights on Geoff Purkiss here. Mark Arrowsmith's doing well. He's getting his elbows out. He's not letting anyone get too much of the better of him. Defending nicely into the hairpin there. He bunches up the grid a little bit. Elliott House is now defending hard from Neil Crave. Dives across the fend. Crave has now got the undercut on Elliott House as we approach the hairpin here. Arrowsmith is there defending the inside. Crave's still on the inside of Elliott House, but House has the better line for the next corner. And House maintains the position of 5th. A lot of ladders in there. I know you can't tell the difference between one another. That is House at the front in the 14 car. The slowdown penalty, it seems, for Neil Crave in the 7 car. And through goes Kernahan, the winner of race 2. So it's 14th to 6th drive so far for Kernahan. He's very pleased with that. And Elliott House, he's just been following Elliott House all the way through this race. So let's compare the last laps of the drivers. I can't bring it up on your screen, but Jamie Dory with a faster lap than Geoff Purkiss by 2/10, an invalid lap from Lee Horne, so it's hard to tell his lap. And on the outside there goes Elliott House on Mark Arrowsmith. A little bit of a nudge up the rear, but it's nothing that's going to compromise either of them too much. House holds the inside, and this is certainly going to be the better line, but Arrowsmith hanging on to the outside there. Can he keep it on the track? Yes, he can. But you've got to say House has the better line for the next corner. He has the inside. Arrowsmith is very late on the brakes. Washes out wide though. Has to be careful he doesn't lose a position now to Kernahan. He has to tuck back in House and deal with it and try and get back on another corner. Race 2 winner, David Kernahan. The race 1 winner is out of this race. A pit start, but then speeding in the pits puts him out of this race. Okay, Navalov has been quiet tonight, but 8th place for him. Stronger than the previous 2 races. Neil Crave and his teammate William Berera on the inside of Alex Ward. Squeezed in the middle there was Alex Ward. 2 Warrior Motorsports drivers being very rough and tough with the next gen driver. He gets himself back between the 2. Trying to fight back. Flash of the lights there to Alex Ward, letting William Berera know he wasn't happy about that. And Lee Horne has caught and got alongside and maybe past Geoff Purkiss here, his championship rival. So Lee Horne has definitely done what he's needed to tonight to get ahead of Geoff Purkiss, his championship rival. But Lee Horne will put himself on the second spot of the podium here. And he does so. Oh no, he doesn't. Geoff Purkiss is still on the inside. But Lee Horne is later on the brakes. That Chevy's far more superior under braking into the corners. The Lada, very good down the straights, but in the corners, not very good. Mark Arrowsmith doing well. He's hanging on to the top 5 still. You know, he's not let anyone get the better of him, or not too much of the better of him. He's really sticking this out, and he's got 9 minutes left. Can he get as high a position as he can? It'll help him in the AM Championship, but he's got one of his rivals in the AM Championship alongside him. Oh no, that's in front of him. That's Elliott House, but that's David Kernahan in the 15 car alongside. Looking like a well-executed move from David Kernahan. Arrowsmith has to tuck back in behind. Jamie Dory with a slowdown penalty will have to serve that. If he doesn't, it's a drive-through penalty. It looks to be that he has served it now. Sometimes on RaceRoom you can serve slowdowns by just braking normally into the corners, which is a bit bizarre because iRacing is a lot more punishing than that. You actually physically have to slow down on a straight on iRacing, whereas RaceRoom you can get away with serving the slowdown whilst braking for corners. A little bit of a broken system, but hey yo. So Arrowsmith drops to 6th. He's now defending from Navalov, Limburg and Berera again. Berera really throwing in the lunges here, and he might take 2 in 1 corner here with that lunge. He might well do it. He gets himself in front of Navalov. Provided that was without contact, a good move. Another one we've seen tonight. We've seen Geoff Purkiss with a good move. We've just seen Berera with one. We saw Zenko with a good move in race 2 as well. A big nudge from the rear. Sends Berera off wide. But he's able to keep going and stay in 7th place. 3 seconds the gap between Jamie Dory and Lee Horne. I mean, Horne and Dory are teammates. Will Horne go for it if he can catch up with Dory? As we see, we'll find out in 7.5 minutes or so. Mark Arrowsmith drops behind William Berera. And really all Mark Arrowsmith has to do is just keep it going. just has to keep it going and try and score as many points as he can. He now has Neil Crave on his inside. Honda, he's managed to get very late on the race, but too late at times. Not going to happen for Arrowsmith. He stays ahead of Limburg at least. Big hit from the rear from Limburg. Yeah, there's a Castrol Honda in the way there, Limburg. Alex Ward coming in behind as well. Arrowsmith thought he found the inside of Neil Crave there. Couldn't quite get it. Got Alex Ward back here trying to move on Limburg here. He has the inside. We know that Chevrolet is good in these corners, but Limburg fighting back and still holds the inside for the next corner. It's where we're seeing most of the moves, but if you can get yourself, leave yourself on the outside, around that left-hander, you'll have the inside for the right-hander, which is the better line to have for that corner. Time has dropped between Lee Horne and Jamie Dory, not much, but it still has dropped. Lee Horne was half a second quicker than Geoff Purkiss on the previous lap, but we can't see what time Jamie Dory did because it was invalidated. And we have seen a few slowdowns pop up for Jamie Dory. Needs to be careful he doesn't get too many and accumulates a penalty. Too many repeated on the same lap, or same corner should we say, will lead to a drive-through penalty. Arrowsmith taken by Jonas Limburg and trying to fight back. Looks to the inside. Latest of the late breakers. Arrowsmith tries braking later again, but he brakes too late again, and that sends him even wider. Limburg and Alex Ward get through. Kernahan, this is the battle for fourth place. Oh, big shunt up the rear from Kernahan. You can't do that, David. And he backs off, realising. Just can't repeatedly shove someone up the rear to try and get past them. But this is the battle we could have saw in race 2. Except their position swap around. Oh, big contact between Arrowsmith and Limburg. Limburg bunched up by Ward there. See, with some of these drivers on a track like this, their tyres will be worn away, and that's what some of these drivers need to be aware of. Some drivers' tyres will have degraded a lot. This is a very demanding track on the tyres, and we are more than 20 minutes into this race. 20 minutes, more than 20 minutes is abnormal for touring cars, modern day touring cars anyway. Watching Kernahan in the 15 car try and catch up with the 14 car of Elliott House. Into turn 2. Closest battle on the track at the moment. Actually, it has just got rather close between Navalov and Arrowsmith. Apparently it was close, but doesn't seem to be much threat. Kernahan, well, looks like tried to move on House, didn't quite work. House gets away. The top 3 have just broken away from this pack here. They're nearly 10 seconds as a collective. They're nearly, well, the leader anyway is nearly 10 seconds clear of 4th place here. So Jamie Dory done the damage tonight. Driven very, very well all night has Jamie Dory, and I've deprived him of this award for a very, very long time. I think that was until the last race of last season. But my Apex Tracks driver of the day tonight is Jamie Dory. 3 podiums, and one of them is a win. You can't argue with that. I mean, William Berera did that on the opening race of the season, and he he got driver of the day, so Jamie Dory therefore gets driver of the day. Kernahan trying more ways to get by. We are just going to quickly switch to Jamie Dory, as this is going to be close. In fact, he won't cross the line in time. This will be the final lap starting now. And he is being caught ever so slightly by Lee Horne, but it might not be enough for Lee Horne to catch up with Jamie Dory to make the win, unless Jamie Dory makes a mistake. This is the battle for fourth place. Conahan looks to the outside. House keeps it nice and snug on the inside. Conahan gets a very good run out. Can he hold on to the outside round this corner? No, he can't. He has to try again somewhere else. Going to work into this corner, although he brakes very, very late. Has he overshot it? No, he hasn't. Elliott House is not giving up on the inside, but Kernahan, very valiant move going into the hairpin there, but it's not over between these two. House holds the inside, but Kernahan gets ahead. He left it late, but he did it in the end. House would try desperately to fight back, but Kernahan has got it into fourth place, and it's been a good night for Kernahan as well. He was brilliant at Spa, driver of the day at Spa. He's driven very well tonight, it's got to be said. Race 1 was a little bit of a write-off for him, but race 2 and 3 here have both been good. And we've got to credit Elliott House as well. He's got himself from the back of the grid, like David Kernahan, to finish in the top 5 here. Rather impressive. But we'll switch to our leader and our Apex Tracks driver of the day. Jamie Dory is about to come through to win race 3 after finishing 3rd in race 2, 3rd in race 1. It's going to be first in race 3. A triple podium. So plenty of champagne for Jamie Dory. He needs it after the weeks of work he's had. But he wins race 3. And takes another win this season. In fact, no. Do excuse me. It's his first win of the season. And about time. Dory takes the win here from his teammate, Lee Horne, who might have taken the lead in the championship after tonight. I'm not entirely sure, but either way it's going to be very close between him and his rival, Geoff Purkiss. David Kernahan with a good move on the final lap there to take 4th place from Elliott House. William Berera involved in a lot of contact in that race. It's sick that all he can manage today. And he didn't have a win tonight, which was, well, judging by his pace in practice and qualifying, he was looking almost inevitable for a win tonight, but it hadn't happened. And there are your stands, and we'll carry on from where we were. 7th, Neil Crave from Alex Ward. Jonas Limburg, 9th from Heike Navalov. 11th is Mark Arrowsmith, and 12th is Anastasios Georgiadis. 13th, Stephen de Grevelia, and 14th, Matt Zenko with a DSQ. We'll be back next week at the Hungaroring. Sign up if you want to get involved in the series. Late entries are welcome, and it is less than £5. It is £4 for the rest of this season to attend the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds remaining. My name's been Alex Everitt. This has been Crest Autosport TV and Next Gen Racing. We'll see you next time at the Hungaroring. Thank you for watching.